take this to the next possible or the logical conclusion of this experiment, right? If we have exposed corruption, option one in the scientific method, right? So we've got a observation of corruption in government and in our society. Step two, hypothesize. What's our solution? If we can fix government corruption, then we can fix social corruption because government isn't as corrupt. Then we can actually see if these experiments have results and can government actually make some positive change to our society. So let me give you a couple of big things that progressives were in fact able to do once we got a little corruption out of our government. Some social reforms included an effort to really have a minimum workday so that you couldn't force people to work 15 hours a day. You could only work 8 hours a day. We even saw laws that said you could have minimum work weeks so that you could actually have only so many days a week you could work. And we're going to see people say that kids under a certain age have to go to education, and that's a really big deal because it's going to start to begin to force an end to child labor. That's really, really, really huge. Child labor will continue for a long time. Up until the 1930s, you're going to really see child labor continue, but it begins to end. And that's what you need to understand. Remember from that first slide, the progressive era goes from 1900 at one end of the spectrum all the way over to 1920. And really, in an issue like child labor, it's going to take it to the 1930s to really see social change. But it's actually happening now. It's actually going to be able to happen. The other big change that we're going to see is called the temperance movement. And that's going to start in an effort to really help fix society because of the terrible things that alcohol does to our people. For example, alcohol was such a problem in the early 1900s that you would see tons of rapes, abuse, domestic violence, crime, all fueled by alcohol. So the temperance movement, pushed by women, is going to begin to take effect to actually slow the consumption of alcohol to try and fix some of the problems that alcoholism brings. You know how there's a heroin epidemic, most recently in Pennsylvania, causing a lot of social problems? Alcohol was the same way back in the early 1900s. So the temperance movement, pushed by progressives, is going to be an attempt to fix some of those social problems. The other big thing that you'll see people try to do for society is fix the way big business hurts our people with its low wages, forcing them to have low rents, live in tenements, etc. So you're going to actually begin to see progressives start to push for more regulation of business to protect workers. And we're going to talk about that a lot. We're going to see people begin to push back that idea called laissez-faire, which says government shouldn't be involved. On the contrary, progressives will say government needs to be more involved. We need to regulate business, regulate wages, regulate working hours so that society can be a better place for its people to live. Some of these progressives will even go as far to push for something called socialism, which is the opposite of laissez-faire. If laissez-faire is no government intervention, then on the other side of that equation is socialism, which is government actually owning business and fixing all of the problems, but giving people no choice about profit or wages or any of those kinds of things. Government runs the show. Highly controversial idea, totally opposite to what our economy has been based off of, and it's still controversial today. So we're talking about an idea that's been controversial now for like 115 years, that we've been wrestling with this concept of socialism, longer than that, really. And we'll talk more about it as we go throughout class. So there's a brief introduction to progressives, how they want to fix government, some of the things they want to fix in society, and we'll talk more about it in this chapter as we go.